Kevin Sutherland delivered a playoff upset yesterday with his first PGA Tour Champions win of his career, winning the Charles Schwab Cup over heavy favorite Bernhard Langer. But does the format need changes?
For the second straight week, there's a new #1 in ladies golf. Why Shen Feng's win in China could be a game changer.
Shen has put herself in wonderful position to take home the prize in this season's race to the CME Globe on the LPGA. But I'll tell you which player has the edge not only to win it, but throw her name next to one of the greats of the game.
And on the European Tour, it could be a Masters rematch this week in Dubai between Sergio Garcia and Justin Rose. But what will they have to do to win this season's race over Tommy Fleetwood?
3 straight weeks, 3 first-time winners on the PGA Tour. Will it continue this week in Sea Island at the year's final official event of the calendar year? The RSM Classic Golf Central starts now.
Golf Central. Brought to you by Titleist.
Welcome into Golf Central, this Monday night edition. We're looking at what's created quite a bit of buzz, the conclusion of the Charles Schwab Cup and the PGA Tour Champions season. Off to the action out in Phoenix for the final round. Well, it was Langer who came in as the heavy favorite win the tournament, and simple enough, he wins the cup. Bernhard Langer's 18th hole par 5, the third shot, and oh yeah, he stuffs it very tight. Langer 64 in the final round. He finishes at -10, but that wasn't enough. It was Kevin Sutherland entering the week in the top 5. That gave him plenty of chances. This is the 7th hole, and that was good for Eagle. Ties the lead at 13 under with 3 others. Here he is on the 16th hole, still a tied game. Sutherland for birdie, and it goes in. He drains that baby, takes the lead at 15 under. The last hole of the day, 18th hole, par 5. Sutherland with a par tap in to win it. He wins it by 1 shot. Sutherland not only claims the tournament, but this is what Langer had to say about the format.
We're comfortable because we voted for that, and that's what it is at the moment. You know, it was never meant to be fair. It was meant to be playoffs. Everybody in the field was given a chance to win. Is it fair? No, it's not, but that's how it is right now, and we might revisit in the future.
Don't you think it makes sense to enact a rule whereby someone will have to have won at least one tournament to be eligible to win the Schwab Cup bonus?
Well, that could be one of the rules we might change into in the future, but then that could bring other problems into the scenario as well. So it's not easy. But I think we might have to revisit in the future and just see if we can tweak it slightly, like they've tweaked the FedEx Cup points various times, and we might have to do the same here.
Well, yesterday was not only Sutherland's first win of the season, but the first win of his PGA Tour Champions career. Bernhard Langer had a historic season, of course, but Sutherland put together a very strong season as well. Let's take a look. He finished 2nd on the tour in scoring average and top 10 finishes. He actually took the lead in greens and regulation for the season over the weekend as well. And here's a look. Kevin Sutherland versus Bernhard Langer. Take a look at those numbers. Impressive resumes by both. And now to get deeper into the conversation with more on the Charles Schwab Cup playoffs, let's say hello to our boy, Steve Burkowski.
Hey there, Chantel. Certainly plenty to discuss, and I've got 3 heavyweights that are going to help me break it down. Tripp Eisenhower, Matt Adams, and Tim Rosafort. And let's just make this an open forum, guys. Get everyone's ideas. What's your reaction and response to how it played out all year and then ultimately yesterday?
Well, first of all, I think this is a playoff. This is how they have to do it. You know, I played in the first. I played in the first FedEx Cup playoffs, and they had to tweak that over the years. And as Bernhard said, they voted on this. This is what happened. And yes, if you go undefeated in the NFL and you get beat by a team that's a wild card team, you know what? You don't move on. I mean, that's what it is. And hats off to Sutherland, by the way, because what did he do? He put himself in that top 5 without winning. That speaks to a fantastic season. I know it was overshadowed by what a 60-year-old Langer's doing, but I don't think they need to change a thing. Langer didn't play well until the final round, and he'd be probably the first to tell you that.
Yeah, I don't think I agree with you that they don't need to change a thing. I do think it's something that they need to take a look at. But I reached out to World Golf Hall of Fame member Lanny Watkins earlier today. Of course, he who is our lead analyst on PGA Tour Champions coverage. And he said, quote, "If everything is fair in a proper world, Bernhard Langer would be winning the Schwab Cup championship, without a question. But because of the incredible year that he had, it would have otherwise justified it. But the playoffs are a different animal, to your point. And it ended up being very exciting. He said we had quite a finish. We didn't know who was going to win until the last hole or two, end quote from Lanny Watkins. So, Rosie, what he's saying is you got to make a choice. You have to make a choice if the regular season is going to mean something, or you have to make a choice if the playoffs are going to mean something. And right now, it had an exciting finish.
Well, the problem with this was that Kevin Sutherland was your basic 9-7 wild card team. Not very sexy, had a solid season, just like the New York Giants did when they took out those 17-0 Patriots, right? And if you're looking for a big show on Sunday, this wasn't it. I mean, it was a nice performance by Sutherland. He's been around a long time. We got a lot of respect for him. But he's not the type of guy that's going to move a lot of eyeballs over to the Golf Channel to watch how this thing played out. And, you know, if you're going to find a positive in it, it's the overall buy-in that the PGA Tour Champions players had about the Schwab Cup playoffs this year, and how many more players were playing down the stretch. You know, the analytics of that may not process themselves when you're looking at it yesterday on TV and you're looking maybe for some sort of Langer shootout, but it didn't play out that way. And it happens in sports sometimes, and you got to look at the bright side of things. That Kevin Sutherland's been around a long time, and you know what? He deserved it. He went on and won the golf tournament.
He did what he had to do with the structure of the playoffs as it exists right now. Your line of thinking was the exact same as I was thinking about this segment, and I went back and said, okay, it's a philosophy. What do you want your playoffs to be in terms of how much the regular season is going to influence the playoffs themselves, or do they stand alone as their own little championship season, right? So I went back and said, along the same lines that you were just going down, Rosie, how about the 69 Mets? 83, NC State. 85, Villanova. 2006 with the Cardinals. 2007 with the New York Giants. Playoffs produce surprises.
And that's the point. And my point in bringing up the first FedEx Cup playoffs, where the first iterations of that, I got in and thought, you know, I could move on and keep playing. I had no chance unless I finished in the top 3 or whatever. You know, I like the fluidity of the playoffs and the way it's changed, because remember, Vijay Singh won the FedEx Cup without even having, he didn't even have to play the Tour Championship. So it's certainly an aspect where you have to perform, and you have to perform all the way through. I think they've got the blend about right. Let's face it, had Langer gone on, had not one of the top 5 win, he was in the best position based on the regular season to have the finish he had and still win it. It just happened that one of those 5 guys that controlled it ended up winning the tournament, and that's what ultimately tipped the scales for Sutherland.
You know, I don't want to steal a win from the Patriots. They were 18-0, not 17-0 when they lost to the Giants. My Giants, by the way. But at the bottom line, you didn't see the NFL rewrite the playoff system at the end of those playoffs in that Super Bowl that year.
What tweaks? I know you seem to be adverse to it. You like it. Adjustments, changes you two would like to see?
I think they need to take a look at it a little bit. In other words, if you have somebody that has won 7 times through the course of the season against the overall winner that has won 1 time, I think they need to take a look at the balance a little bit. And I'm not talking about major changes. Don't tear down the house. Just do some little tweaking, because that's exactly what they did with the FedEx Cup, getting it better and better as the years went on. And I was in favor of that, too.
And the one big point that I do like about the FedEx Cup playoffs and where they've got it right is Morgan Hoffman was barely inside the 125. Played himself to Eastlake. So that's impressive stuff. I want to see the guy that's 72, or even that provisional guy that gets in based on the top 10 in the last event, that gets in and is one of those players. I want to see them be able to move on and keep playing and play their way to the Charles Schwab Cup Championship. I love that aspect of the playoffs, and it's analogous to what you keep saying with the 9-7 Giants. I mean, that's exactly right. You play good enough to get in the playoffs, but if you get on a tear and tear it up from there, hey, you're the one holding the trophy.
If you based it on what happened during the regular season, Bernard Langer, there would be absolutely no interest whatsoever. Yeah. You were on a policy board for a while. Yep. I mean, how would you tweak this?
I wouldn't. I think they've got it right.
You would not change a thing about it.
I wouldn't change a thing about it. I think they've got it exactly right. If I were going to take a look at it, I'd have to dig down deeper into the fluidity of how many players, like at 70 or 68, moved on and ultimately were one of the final 36. I'd like to see the fluidity in those numbers, but that's really it. He had an advantage over everybody else, guys, because of his regular season. He didn't perform in the final event. It's the Super Bowl.
And that regular season does not become diminished. 3 major championships, 7 wins.
And he'll win a Player of the Year award by, it won't even be close.
And
But you know what, Chantel? We're talking about it, so the buzz has certainly been generated.
It sure has, hasn't it, boys? We've got plenty more coming up. Shan takes over the #1 spot in the Rolex rankings, becoming the first player from China to reach the top spot. But what will this impact have on the game in China? And Sergio Garcia and Justin Rose, remember that when they battled it out at Augusta in April? Now they're racing to Dubai, but both are chasing the guy who holds the top spot. Plus, with tight competition, Tripp will give us who he has for the edge to win the CME Globe this week as the LPGA Tour season comes to an end. Keep it here.
Golf Central is brought to you by Titleist, the #1 ball at the OHL Classic at Mayakoba. Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.